Welcome back from caucus and just negotiating sessions again. And so we have some questions about what you proposed, some clarifying questions. We have a lot of concerns, but we'll take care of that in the counter. But some clarifying questions on. That's fine. So on the probation, we went round and round in that the last couple of years on the timeline, those days, and it was just doubled from last year to this year. It went from 60 days with an additional 30 now to 90 days to an additional 60. Can you explain a little bit on what's come up in the few months that that's been in process on why the need is to go all the way to 180?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had, I don't think, any issues that have come up specifically. We simply think that employees need more time to settle into their job, and supervisors need more time to ensure that they are assessing them appropriately. If we were to think to our evaluation article, I'm slightly concerned that some employees are not being evaluated, therefore not being provided feedback or being apprised of their progress in how they're doing as an employee. And so we haven't had any specific issues that have prevented us from not extending the period of time. However, we do think that potentially supervisors might need more time to assess whether or not an employee is doing a good job and to give them feedback and opportunity to improve. It's not fair, I don't think, to ask a supervisor or an employee to have learned and be proficient at their job within, let's say, 6 weeks, and then get that feedback. Then they have another 6 weeks to either maintain or improve. We just thought that a more extended timeline would give them more opportunity to get the feedback, have an opportunity to improve, or continue maintaining their level of success that they've had before moving out of that probationary role. But to answer your question, we have not had any specific issues that I can recall from this first semester.
Because again, with the extension currently it is at 150 days, which is close to the 180 that you're talking about with those scenes if needed. Also, again, if we are hiring the best candidates, that should have great point. Which concerns me, concerns us, sorry, on 4-4-6, striking through some language and made a statement of we should hire the best candidate. We agree completely. But the strike through was assuming there's no difference between an external candidate and an internal candidate, then the internal candidate should be given preference. But that's not the justification that we heard, and maybe we misheard that, but the strike through completely was because we want the best candidate. Well, we agree we want the best candidate.
Or and we would be open to counter language that maybe just verified or stamped that statement that the intent of a hiring process is to hire the most highly qualified or best candidate for the position. And certainly we would be open to further conversation in that.
And then if you could explain a little bit more on the strike through on the third sentence of 4-4-5 on why there's no review from HR or JESPA on the hiring folder.
I'm sorry, hang on one second. Let me just read. You're talking about right after the words district policy, that first strikeout or the last strikeout?
I believe it's the third sentence that struck through on 4-4-5, removing the review of the hiring folder. Selection decisions may be reviewed by Human Resources and JESPA to ensure selections are based on a fair and consistent evaluation.
So currently that is, currently that happens. That is part of the grievance process that exists right now. And so, we actually have that in the grievance article, specific to how this process is grieved. Although I'm not saying that it should remain, if you want to propose a change to that process, we would certainly be open to that conversation. As I stated previously, we do feel like there is, opportunity here for training and improvement in this particular practice, which is resulting in multiple grievances annually. And so, like I said, we would certainly be open to what should this look like, or how can we improve this process so that it's not ongoing grievances around hiring folders and hiring processes.
Okay, thank you. When the interest and solutions were brought, we discussed that we wanted to bring a new safety article, and we talked about it would be overarching for safety for all SPs with then subsections for the different locals or divisions or departments. And then last session, just last week, you had stated that you wanted to bring a safety and security article. So it was we were hearing that we had the mutual interest of employee safety or student safety, and this new article that's security specific was a bit of a surprise, and I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's Brandon corrected me today, and I realized that I'm actually calling it the wrong thing. So our Department of School Safety is called just that. It's actually not called the Department of Safety and Security. When I say safety and security, that's what I'm referring to. It's old practice that the department used to be called that. And so please know that we are not opposed to a safety article, or even addressing safety within the individual articles, food nutrition services, preschool, custodial services, et cetera, that may come up throughout this. However, that specific article was in relation to that department because of some of the uniqueness of the job responsibilities that they have. It's very different than most. And so I apologize for that miscommunication. Again, it's my vernacular in saying safety and security versus the Department of School Safety.
Right, because we had, in your proposal under transportation, you had talked about a new safety committee, which is fine. It just was a little surprising.
And that one would have been specific to transportation safety practices. Okay,
that part's understood.
Can I clarify too, not just the semantics, but that it's not in the interests or solutions proposed by the district at all, except for the safety committee. That was discussed. So we're talking about a third session in and a proposal that was never mentioned, which violates the good faith bargaining process.
So after we shared our potential interest in potential solutions, I mean, one of the things that we talked about was there is the possibility that things will come up throughout the bargaining season that may result in new articles. This is one of those things. Some of the language that did not exist in this article, we felt was necessary after having attempted to put it in other articles, and then realizing sometimes there are certain things with transportation, with food nutrition services that are very specific, and they don't belong inside of the staffing article, the hiring article. And so that's why that came up. It was something that we didn't realize before presenting those, and as we agreed, things come up.
I think we'd like to talk further about the process and clarify it because it looks like a violation of the protocols to us because it's not an interest or a solution. But we'd be open to seeing how you addressed it if we're just not seeing it right now. But there's more to discuss, I think, on it. We think it's a potential grievance because of our negotiations process. I think we just need to talk through that, like the process a little bit. We're ready to get on the same page about this.
Then we wanted to clarify on something that Katie had said on the Article 16. I believe, and I could be completely wrong, but I believe that we heard that MEQs are not reviewed. And I remember I brought that repeatedly to the table last year, just something to discuss. And it was delayed and delayed and then delayed, and then it was finally said they're fine the way they are. So we said, okay. So we just wanted to have that they are reviewed, and if we agree to them, then it's okay. It's not something that is glossed over. Moving on, do you guys have any questions on Article 3, or do you want to save them for after we do all our proposals?
Either way, we had just a couple of quick clarifying questions. One of them actually, I wrote my notes here, but let me look at the actual red line. Red line as we discussed.
Yeah, we need to talk more about red lines coming in funny for us, and we can sidebar and process for that.
So in 322, we just want to make sure that we understand that, let's see, what we understand this to say is that, there actually will be, negotiations, at regular, when it says at regular intervals, as specified herein, it talks about it doesn't specifically say a 3-year cycle, but you refer to, 2028 as the next year to bring 3 articles of interest for each side. But then the sentence after that, the district and JESPA will engage in ongoing negotiations that may include things like salary, benefits, etc. Does that mean an annual negotiation process for those items, but then the other items at regular intervals as specified in 25 and 31?
Our goal is to not see each other in this room for 3 years. If we can get all of that, a benefits and proposal for the whole time.
Okay, I just didn't want to make that assumption that that's what you meant.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it that might help is we're trying to clarify this, like, that we bargain over these things in this section, so it might be worth it to reword that, to your point about ongoing. What we're trying to do is kind of separate out when we bargain from what we bargain over, so there's a clear like guide of what we do. That's when we do it.
That makes sense. The other question that we had in here is if that is true, and that eventually becomes something we agree to, there's another, can't find the reference in here, that said the word annual. We just wanted to make, it's in 3253. The parties shall attempt to reach agreement annually by March 31st. If that, if this language is eventually TA'd and agreed to, I would assume that you would be amenable to modifying the word annually to say like during the bargaining year. Unless I'm missing something in that statement.
Not missing anything.
Okay, thank you. I think those were the only questions that we had come up. Please know that we're very open to this conversation and we appreciate it. We also appreciate pushing the date to October 15th instead of September 15th. That was quite a challenge this year. I didn't realize how much of a challenge it was going to be until it happened and we were scrambling, and so we do appreciate that. But otherwise, I think those are our only questions.
Okay, so next would be Article 15. I will turn this over to Sarah, and Vicky will display.
Much easier.
Article 15 for preschool. We'd like to propose adding definitions at the beginning. of what an ECIP is. And it's the full-time partner to the CDE teacher in the classroom. The CDE teacher is the licensed teacher in the room. The ECI is the early childhood instructor, who is one of two early childhood teachers in the classroom without a licensed teacher in the room. We only have a few of those classrooms left, but we do have them. And we'd like to add a new definition, a new role, the ECIS, which would be the early childhood instructional support person. And that would be the teacher that comes in to cover breaks. It's usually a 4-hour position. So that was the changes there, the addition. Then the next change is the preschool advisory committee. The PAC, we would like to change how it's made up by members. So we struck how it is made a little bit and just added let's see, where we have just the preschool staff, 2 CEA special educators, and the 4 administrators at a minimum, and then additional members may be added with mutual agreement between the district and JESPA and JCEA. But we will keep the minimum of what we have. Oh, and I did strike, go back up a little bit. I want to strike out where it says right there in 1532, the PAC will, we're set up for other issues pertaining to preschool. I want to strike ESPs because we're looking at all of preschool, not just ESPs in there. Strike that. All right, go ahead. 15.4.1, the district's and early learning office will provide paid time to attend required district training. We added all curriculum trainings are required trainings. So all ECIs and ECIPs will attend there. Then 15.5, new preschool employee wage placement. The wage schedule shall reflect the numerous hours and additional trainings that license requirements for ECIPs that are outside any other working group to comply with state ECE regulations around classroom ratios and early learning. ECIPs are essential to support the classroom and the CDE teacher. A classroom cannot operate or function without an ECIP. And ECIs who are in the preschool classroom doing the work of a CDE teacher as well as the ECIP will have the equivalent of differential pay. We'll get to that. We want to modify the employee definition. I got like the job schedule. We want to change. Sorry, I'll just go here because it's the same there. The levels, so level 1 is someone who meets all the requirements of the Department of Human Services for school age director and preschool age appropriate. Level 2 would be Colorado Shines PBIS level 2, which is the licensing that we do in preschool. Level 3 would be Colorado Shines PBIS level 3 and 4, which that includes the college courses ECE 101 and 103. Then 15.524 would be level 4, and it changes then going down, just numbers change. The steps will be granted for new hires. We just changed from 1 year experience, we changed it to less than 1 year experience, from no experience to less than one year. And then 15.533 would be 3 years or more of experience would be step 3. And then we could add up to 8 steps depending on experience according to Article 4. Then we'd like to add 15.5.4 differential pay. When there's a substitute CDE and ECIP is responsible for additional duties, ECE licensing and safety requirements for the classroom. They know the parents for arrival and dismissal, and they know all the allergies and medical needs of the classroom. They know IEP goals and strategies. They're familiar with the daily schedule and delivering curriculum expectations. And they're responsible for classroom safety while maintaining name-to-face attendance throughout the day. Therefore, the ECIP will receive differential compensation for the half-day or full-day contact hours at 50% of the guest teacher rate in addition to their hourly rate. And then I think there was something about ECIs. Where'd that go? You see it? Oh, no. Because we want to, because the ECI does the work of the licensed teacher in the classroom, we want to elevate the wage schedule to reflect that. And so we are proposing that we rework the wage schedule altogether, basically. I don't know.
And Sarah, that y'all talked about preschool was related to also submitting a reclassification.
Right,
So while we're in bargaining for the wage schedule and where we might bargain to update the preschool wage schedule, we also have the intent to reclassify preschool positions, which has a different process. It's all kind of going to overlap. So given the responsibilities of the different job categories that Sarah's describing, we've talked about this in wage committee actually today, that we have the need to do this, but that preschool employees in our unit are also going to ask for the rectification.
yes. Thank you. And with that, I think
Any questions on 14?
Just two quick questions.
Sorry, 15.
Two quick questions that came up for me. I don't know if anyone else has any on this side. Sarah, are there, the ECIS already exists? Oh, it's a brand new position. There are people who come in and fill that role right now, but they're just not classified as an ECIS.
they are called an ECIP for our position. We would like to change that to an ECIS because they are a 4-hour position and they rotate through all the classrooms. They're not in one specific room for the day. They cover up to 4 teachers throughout the day.
And are their expectations or qualifications different as well?
A little bit.
Is the training
Because
you outlined?
well, their trainings are the same, but their expectations through the day, they might not be leading group, they might not be, it depends on where they fall, but it's usually over lunch hour planning period time. So.
That the whole thing as well.
Position to which Sarah is referring to supports honestly our preschool teachers in having planning time. They don't have specials and also getting breaks. All of our preschool educators are getting breaks.
So we would like to elevate that position and make it an ECIS and not just paras coming into the classroom. We'd like to have them early childhood licensed and all of that. Sometimes some schools have just, not just, but a para who is not early childhood licensed for the day or whatever, but we'd like to get them up to the same level. For an ECIS.
For an ECIS, I just want to clarify, yes.
The only other question I had was, in reference to what Vicky just said around the compensation committee that discussed this. Does this proposal align with the request to reclassify that will be submitted or was submitted? Just out of curiosity, and if you don't know, it's okay.
It aligns, because I don't know what they've talked about yet.
I think we just recognize that there is a process to reclassify, but we also have the opportunity to negotiate. And the problem we're trying to solve with this proposal is that there are all these lanes and there are people all over this wage schedule, and it doesn't quite make sense. And they all have different years in each of the pay grades. So you can go up to the 25 years is the top one, and then some don't go that high. And so our goal is to align one wage schedule for preschool that mirrors the rest of the JESPA folks. But also the reclassification process is market analysis, where should starting pay be? Where should top pay be, the midpoint, all of that. For the 2 to 3 different jobs they're doing, and how different are they in their job duties, and how does the pay schedule affect that? Does that make sense?
I think so, yes. I just wondered if one was going to, like, if one was going to negate the other. Like, if we agreed to this, but then they got reclassified, would that just take the language away, or vice versa?
I hope not. I think we just know that it might be kind of complex and we might have to work through that. I know this morning we had wage committee, and the district also has an interest in working on this, and we talked about it once or twice briefly. But it was mentioned, let's get rid of the levels. And so I think that would be a red flag, like the only schedule we have that have levels, and we'd like to actually add levels to other jobs. So I think there's just work we need to do.
Sounds good, thank you. Those were my only questions. Did anyone else have a question?
All right, moving on to Article 14, which is the professional development article. And I would just like to acknowledge that NIE is our professional development committee subcommittee of JESPA, and they are going to come up and go through the article. But before that, acknowledging that NIE and I have been working for a year and a half with Dr. Lopez on specifically paraprofessional development, and so happy with what happened at the last training day. It was wonderful. So NIE is going to come up and present. In addition to NIE, the other members of our subcommittee are here. Shat Galvin, Melanie McLean, Sarah McClintock, and Tom Feeney, who is not able to be here. And I just want to acknowledge the work that they've put into this. While NIE gets ready and Vicky gets it up, I'm just gonna let NIE breathe for a minute and say that the first paragraph is taken out from the evaluations, Article 9, which is what we had said we do before, with one change in the middle. It was not a run-on sentence because there was a semicolon, but we have put in a period, and instead of putting in consequently after the semicolon, we've added therefore. So there is some language that is not showing up as a change because the whole thing came over, and we need to sidebar all these track changes that are happening and try and improve something, but that's another topic. Okay, take it away. None. Just did so.
This is Micah. All right, so starting with 14-1, Professional Development Committee. The parties agreed to create a Professional Development Committee for Education Support Professionals, PD Committee. 14.1.1, members of the committee shall be equal parts administration and education support professionals. ESP members shall be appointed by JESPA and may rotate depending on committee focus that month. The committees shall be staffed with no more than 4 ESP members and 4 administrator members, including at least 1 person from the professional learning department. We struck through of association release time 4 times per year to monthly. Then in 14.1.3, cost association release time shall be shared equally by the JESPA. Struck. Change to committee will set professional development opportunities with goals and specific timelines for the following school year by May 1st. This does not preclude adding professional development when the need arises. Struck through 14-1, district with district covering the first half of the cost each year. 14.1.5, in order to increase educator diversity and increase the number of certified educators of color, the PD committee should annually explore ways to build a career path for ESPs of color to become teachers and ways to support diversity in the ESP workforce. Look at this, this one's supposed to be 14.1.6.
Again, apologies for the numbering system. We need to, moving on.
Can I just say, if there's weird things, what I'm trying on the screen is me trying to merge all of these changes. And so that's why it has all those weird JESPA marks on the side. So we wanted to present it so you would see it, but it may be really difficult to counter this document, so we may need to redo this document. But I did it in a way that shows it, it's messed up, so sorry about that, we'll fix it after this.
14-2, the ESP workday calendar will include defined professional development days across all ESP positions. Trainings will be held during regularly scheduled work days and paid for by the district. Professional development days will be communicated to ESPs by May 1st for the following school year. 14.3, all ESPs will be offered emergency response training, first aid, stop and bleed, and CPR training at no cost during work days. Student-facing ESPs are required to have first aid, stop and bleed, and CPR training. These will be scheduled during training days in the work days calendar as soon as possible. 14.3.1, the district must ensure emergency response certifications are renewed prior to expiration. Wanted to add really quick, one of the reasons why we have that particular section is because we had a number of our committee members bring up that they did not have access to those trainings, or I should say, didn't know when to take them and how to get those during work. 14-4, non-emergency trainings will be offered to student-facing ESPs to include de-escalation. 14.5, the district shall provide comprehensive job-specific training and orientation for all new hires prior to their assignment to regular duties. This training shall include, but is not limited to, safety protocols, job responsibilities, and equipment usage specific to the employee's classification. 14.5.1, new hires shall be assigned a peer mentor upon completing training and orientation. Peer mentorship shall consist of hands-on, job-specific instruction provided by an experienced employee to a colleague within the same job type. Mentor shall receive an additional stipend for each day spent training the employee. 6, certifications, lanes for payment advancement for training, Article 6.
Just a quick question on 14.3.1. The district must ensure emergency response certifications are renewed prior to expiration. Can you say more about that? Do you mean emergency response certifications for the employees who are required to be certified, or the employees who? Because right now it's a choice to be certified. So I just wondered if you could clarify that one.
My understanding of that one is to provide an opportunity for when those certifications expire, that they would then be able to renew. So it's not just a one time after 2 years that they don't have.
Thank you. Any other questions? Tanya, I think has some questions.
Thank you. Nye, would you be able, can you, define for me a student facing position? So that was something that was in here and I just want to make sure that I understand.
We were kind of struggling to come up with a word that explained the jobs that interact with students on a regular basis. So, transportation, kitchen, custodial, as well as our para educators, pre-K, anyone who is interacting with a student and would have need of utilizing and having those emergency responses for our students.
And then I just want to clarify, that you put a requirement that that every transportation employee, custodial employee, para, PK has, I think it was like CPR, stop the bleed, de-escalation. It's not de-escalation support.
First aid, stop the bleed, and CPR. There was, later on, the non-emergency trainings reference.
Thank you.
I could make a caveat that, perhaps the night folks and custodial do not need that because they are not student facing. That's a. Depending, right? High school activities, et cetera, et cetera.
I have a question. So when we look up here with 14.3-1, the district must ensure, just above where you're at, the response certifications are reviewed. Wouldn't that work against maintaining qualifications under Article 4, where it's the employee's responsibility to maintain their certifications? If you guys are requiring that all of these positions have it, I think we would need clarification on that, because I think 14.7.1 would state that it's that the employee's responsibility to make sure that they're certified.
It almost seemed to me from Nye's response that potentially what was intended was that the courses would be offered and not that the district would haunt you with emails. But, and so I agree, Brandon, that's why I asked about that one. And so in my head, I had already counter proposed like clarification around that to mean more that we would offer the courses in order for that to be recertified, but maybe I'm misunderstanding.
I think I have a question to the question, which is, are a certain number of employees per building required? How do you know that you have people certified in stop the bleed or CPR? I mean, I know it's probably a health aid but are there others, or is there a minimum threshold?
There is a new requirement by the state that talks about at least having one CPR certified adult attending field trips. To my knowledge, and somebody, of course, we don't have anyone from health services up here, that would be helpful. I don't believe that there is a certain minimum number of certified adults in a building. We know the health techs are all certified, and RNs if they're in a high school building. However, beyond that, all of pre-K has to be certified, but that's a licensing rule, right? Not necessarily a district law or statute. I'm gonna have to ask about that question.
Yeah, I'm curious because in hearing the committee and at meetings where a lot of members came with this request, it was more, we really need to have this because of all of these things that have happened or could happen, that we're just not prepared for. And so it was pretty blanketed, the discussion of everyone who is near a student has to know these things. In terms of requirements, that would be a big jump from one person in a building to any ES4.
Sure. And I mean, and, you know, certainly there are other things, EpiPen training, for example, is something that's required for all employees, who are student facing, and so, I would, you know, expect that that might be included in there. It could even be less than exhaustive list, because there are other trainings. Now we have Narcan in our buildings, we have, AEDs in our buildings. You're not supposed to have to be trained, because the whole trainer thing happens while you're doing it, but I need to be trained in order to put that on anyone, just so you know. 'Cause I will freak out.
I believe a number of those things are included in the first aid training. I'm not sure exactly what the district outlined of first aid, but when I received the first aid training, those topics were covered.
Thank you. Right now, just for clarification, the only people who have to be first aid trained, to my knowledge, is the health tech and then the backup or multiple backups. Do you know if that's true?
I believe there are other people in the building who also have to be first aid. I want to say that, like physical education teachers and a few other positions that would have a need of providing first aid in their classrooms. I'm not sure what.
Thank you. I think, we'll certainly want to get some clarification from our district, director of health services. That might be helpful just to have that context and background to know if there are other things we need to include, for other people. Thank you.
So on the agenda, we have another caucus for more Q and A. Want to take some caucus and
Do you need the time?
we would like a sidebar just to talk about process that we've kind of talked before that I don't think. We do it after we do the agenda.
Sure. I was actually, wondering if you needed caucus time to talk about which articles you would be able to bring next time, or do you feel like you have that, prepared? Or ready?
Take 10 minutes.
So,
Have I 12 minutes, over it's 3 o'clock.
and then you want to take us offline? We will return at 3.
5, 4, 3, 2.
All right, and welcome back a few minutes early. So we're proposing bringing 2 of our 3 new articles, a custodial article and a respect article. And then holding the bilingual, the new safety article for ESP safety, just so I'm clear, and the compensation package holding for our February session, evening session. We have a lot of committee members, that way we don't have to get them released.
I'm sorry, can you please, you said the custodial article, which is a new article proposal, and
A new respect.
thank you. I heard safety also, but then I feel like I heard you say you'd wait on that one. Okay,
Correct.
I was typing it on the joint communication to make sure I didn't forget when we got to that point. So just those, just two articles, is what you just said, correct? Thank you. So we, at this point, have exhausted the articles that we, shared interest and potential solutions in, with the exception of, Article 6 and 7, which is compensation and leaves, or benefits rather, benefits. And we believe that with the joint negotiation sessions that we have scheduled in February, likely some of the language for Article 7 might get discussed at that time. And then Article 6, of course, to your point, we're not quite ready with our compensation proposal, and can push that as well. However, we can bring counter proposals, but I know that that was not something that you wanted us to do until all articles were open. So we wanted to see if that was of interest to you to hear counter proposals. Otherwise, we don't have any additional articles we can bring yet.
Well, and that was just it, is we weren't going to start redlining until we had seen your whole package. Because we're bringing 2 articles, if there is something that you can start that you don't think will, I don't want to use the word interfere, but that just one word pops into mind, interfere with a custodial or a respect article. We'd be happy to see those red lines of, if you're willing to, on what we've presented so far, knowing that our presentation is still holding on to a couple of things.
So, so our intention then would be to bring counter proposals for Article 3, which you presented today, Article 14, which you presented today, and then Appendix D, the sick leave bank. We could have those 3 ready. I don't think they interfere with either of the 2 articles that you just.
So we will be done, just, Vicky just said, a reminder that we will be done with our proposals then in February. Because then we will have the compensation, all our new articles done, as well as then the bilingual, other interest and solution, in addition to the ones we're bringing then.
I'm sorry, is there a bilingual article that you'll be presenting separate from the Article 6 bilingual stipend section, or is that within Article 6?
It's within our.
Oh, okay, thank you. I just, for clarification, just one more piece of clarification. You had referenced in Article 2 last time a staffing article, and you had put a section that was, I think, going to potentially live in another new article. Is that still up for proposal?
Yes.
Thank you. Jen has a new agenda draft going. Just to verify, she's going to share her screen. Then we can do joint communication. I think that's the last thing.
Since we have some of the things for the agenda setting for February 4th, I don't know if you wanted to put those in there. That's bringing Article 6. The new safety article. And compensation. And then benefits.
Fixing compensation is 6, or do you mean fixed language and compensation separately? Sorry.
The confusion is we have multiple committees that touch Article 6, so bilingual, we have a compensation, we have. Well, benefits is 7, but we're doing that jointly with JCPA. And that'll be on February 6th, the benefits jointly with JCPA. And then staffing. The staffing article.
Oh, no, sources next week.
Yeah. If you had something started for joint communication, I hate leaning on you like this, but if you have it already started and you're hooked up.
So I just, let's see, we met, can fill in the time, it's about 3:15, that will probably end, I would assume. The district shared the language proposals for 416 and a newly proposed Department of School Safety article. Jessica shared proposed language for 314 and 15. And then I was just typing this part. The teams set the agenda for January 21st, which is scheduled 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the boardroom. And then I started to type what we would discuss. Did we do that last week? Oh, yes, we did, sorry. Talk about. So the teams identified articles they intend to bring to the January 21st bargaining session, and I'm going to put in here new articles. To 314 and Appendix D. That we need to include?
And I know it says new articles. On custodial services and respect, and I'm just looking at it and it just looks weird that it's custodial respect. I know it says new articles on custodial and respect, and oh. We should all respect our custodial staff, but again, here we are.
Is that better?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Respect for custodial services only. We are flexible and understand that if you did miss one in your list of for February 4th, we understand we can certainly go with that. If another one comes up. And there's something else I was going to tell you, and I grabbed it was. Said, don't need to say that. And it's gone.
Great, thank you all for tuning in. This concludes our session. See you all in a week.